In one word, what would be the quality that a person needs to have to bring healing in a relationship, to mend a broken relationship? Of course, there are many different qualities that are important to have, but perhaps the most important quality would be compassion. Wow, I'm sure you didn't think of that. Sure, you thought of many other things, but when you think about it, compassion in a relationship can redeem the missing love. When you don't feel love to someone that you should, a spouse, a child, a parent, or just, you know, your fellow Jew or your fellow that you should have love towards. If you'll think about their situation, maybe your compassion will bring you back to connecting with them. I just had a couple of instances dealing with people in troubled relationships, and I asked, can you have compassion? Can you see that this is the way God made them? This is their blind spot. They're not able to see this part in them that needs healing, but they don't see it. It's affecting you. It's, detrimental to you. You feel less than because of the way they act towards you, because of this blindness that they have that they're not able to recognize, and therefore they say things that are not exactly appropriate. Should that change? Well, you know the story. The guy comes to the store to buy a few things. He gives a $50 bill and he puts out his hand and he asks for change. And the cashier says, "I'm sorry, sir. Change comes from within." So we're always looking for others to change. But me, I should change. But you said this. I didn't say this. You hurt me. I didn't hurt you. That's true. But don't look for them to change because they have to come to that recognition that they need to change. You, if they're open to it, you might be able to help them, but most likely not. So then what's got to happen? You have to change. Oh, why do I have to change? Because if you really believe in God and something happened between you and a loved one, so you change. Again, if you can inspire them to recognize what they need to recognize, fine. That's wonderful. But often it's unlikely, if most likely it won't happen. So what are you left with? You're left with a strain in the relationship? Oh, well, I didn't do it, so I don't have to do anything. Yeah, but it's your child. So what? You're gonna leave it that way? It's your spouse. You're just gonna leave it that way? Or change. And the greatest change you could do is have compassion. And when you have compassion, then you can accept the other person. When you can accept the other person for who they are through compassion, then you could love them too. As compassion redeems the love. Welcome to Tanya today. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine coming to you from Chabad Zichron Kedoshim, Montreal, Canada. It's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya, although it might not be so easy. But listen, yeah. Okay, we begin today, the sixth letter. It begins from a verse in Mishlei, in Proverbs, Zerei tzedakah schar emes. He who sows tzedakah, charity, has the reward of truth. Nice to have truth in your life. This means that the attribute of truth is given by God as a reward for those who sow, plant, charity, tzedakah. Wow. Okay. It's also written, Titen emes Yaakov, you give the truth to Jacob. In other words, the attribute of truth is granted from above, and God gave it to Jacob, our forefather. Right? So we need to understand, God has to give the attribute of truth to Jacob? Isn't he not a man of truth himself? Is he not a man of truth? That God needs to give it from above? So let's understand that we have three forefathers, and each one of them is an embodiment of three divine character qualities. Avraham is the embodiment of divine chesed, kindness. Right? He was the ultimate in kindness. Yitzchak, his son Isaac, is the embodiment of gvura, restraint, refrain, discernment. And Yaakov, who we're speaking about now, Jacob, he's the embodiment of tiferes, of kindness. Compassion. He's the embodiment of compassion. And he embodies what it means to serve God with compassion. Now, what does that mean exactly? Divine service in a manner of compassion. How do you understand that? So this comes from the arousal that we have in our heart of a profound compassion over the divine spark in our soul. We have a soul that's a part of God, and by having compassion over my divine soul is what we're talking about, right? Now, the more you appreciate the divine, the more you appreciate where your soul comes from, the more you appreciate what it means, God, the more you will have compassion over that piece of God within you, right? And that will help you to not walk in a dark world full of vanities, and to be able to live with the light of Hashem, of God. So let's understand this. How do we get to this compassion? So we need to reflect. Reflect that really before God, we're nothing. We're not separate from Him, right? We're nothing. All of the vitality that comes to us further is a mere gleam and a reflection of a single letter of God's name, something we learned in the previous letter. So it's kind of a continuation of that thought, right? Second, there is oh, here we go. God creates the spiritual world with the letter Yud, right? And this physical world with the letter Hey, right? Something we learned previously. So, but when we say that letter, think about a letter in human terms, something we've also discussed, is that one letter or one word even comparable to my power of speech or my power of thought, or even more so to the core of my soul, one letter is totally insignificant, totally nothing, right? It's nothing. Comparable to where your speech comes from your soul. So it's really, it takes up no space, no place, right? It's nothing. Likewise, the world that God creates before him is a complete come down of nothingness. As God creates the world through his word, originating with a letter, and then into various words combinations of letters, that they become a conduit for the divine attributes of God that he creates the world. And it's a mere glimmer of God himself, a mere ray of light that is those words that create me, create the entire universe. At the same time, the core essence of God, because of creation, has not changed. Before God created the world, God was God. After he creates the world, the essence of God is still the essence of God. It's not changed. There's nothing been added to him, nothing being subtracted from him, right? He is present in the higher worlds, this precisely the same way he is present in this world. When you speak about the ray of light, so the ray of light is greater in the higher worlds, and that's why the higher spiritual worlds are created from the letter Yud, which is a more lofty letter, right? Chachma, as opposed to Hey, which is Bina. So it's a come down. There's a less of a glimmer of the light of God that animates this lower world, and more of a glimmer of light, the higher worlds. But that's all when we're speaking about the ray of light that comes from God, right? The word of God that comes from him in the creative process. But about him, there's no change, right? There's no change. Higher worlds, lower worlds, he's equally found everywhere, right? In time and space, there is no distinction. Why? Because everything is absolutely is nothing and not in relationship to his essential being. So there's no higher or lower to God. No such thing. To the essence of God. To the ray of light that comes from God, there's a difference between higher or lower. There's a higher light that animates higher worlds, spiritual worlds, Gan Eden. And then there's a lower light, a more contracted light, lesser, degree of intensity. And therefore it creates physical matter, even a stone, which is inanimate, right? Is that clear? Yes. Okay. Now, if this then follows when we speak about God, so then this extremely will bring us to feel compassion over the peace of God that a part of us, it's a part of God himself, not of the ray of light, but a piece of him, right? That dwells in a gloomy, dark world, and a dark world and in the darkness of my body, which is similar to the hide of a snake, is the metaphor that's used. In other words, I have a piece that's of the essence of God, right? That doesn't change. That piece of God doesn't change in us. At the same time, where is that piece of God put in? To a world that the ray of light that God produced is so contracted, so removed, so right that the metaphor for the body where he places that piece of God is called this, the skin of the serpent. That's a pretty gloomy, dark place, right? To consider that that's where your soul is residing. Well, when you think about that, right, what should that bring you to? Compassion over the peace of God that's in you that is now in such a dark place called this world, where again, the ray of light is so contracted, so much so that what am I residing in? A serpent skin, my body, right? When we think about that, we have compassion over that piece inside of me, and that is so easily to be defiled because of the body and the world that we live in, the darkness of this world, and that is so easy to follow the lusts of the body and the animal soul. And if it were not God that would shield us and give us the strength to wage the war over the passions of the body, if God didn't give us that strength, we wouldn't be able to overcome it, right? And this is what we say in our prayers, that Adonu Zenu Magen Yishenu, the master of our strength and the shield of our salvation, we're extolling God that he is giving us the capability that we can overcome and overcome that we have compassion over that part in me that's a piece of God that never changes in a world that and a body that is trying to derail us from our divine connection. Is that clear? Any questions? Clear? All right, amazing. No questions. Let's see over here online if there's any questions. Remember too, I just want to repeat as that this class is a class on of Torah, Judaism. It's not a place for predators. And predators can be predators who are looking for um, uh, predators usually means in a sexual manner. But here, predators is people looking to get their scorecard better and to try to influence people with another religion or another path. Um, all of that will be deleted. All of that you will not be able to participate. So if you going to persist with it, you will not be able to be a party to our learning. Okay, so please don't bring anything up about Yeshu, Yemach Shemai V'Zichrei. Don't bring up anything about Jesus. Don't bring anything about Muhammad or any other, or of that faith, anything about it. It doesn't belong here. It's a predator. You're being acting like a predator to give your opinion of something. And that's will not be tolerated. Darren, is compassion without connection, without action, is divine. Compassion is a feeling, right, that needs to be brought to action, right? And that's what we're going to discuss further. But, compassion is a feeling, and from that feeling, will lead you to act in a compassionate way. Okay, is that, I hope that's clearer.
I don't think I got it clear how someone has compassion. It's one natural inclination, it's one develop it, it's one taught compassion. So when you repeat it.
Oh, okay, that's an excellent question. So Menachem Hillel is asking, so how do you gain this compassion? Is it inherent? Is it something to be taught? So it's both. It's both. It's inherent because it is one of the 10 attributes of the soul. But being an attribute of the soul, that doesn't mean you expose it, implement it, reveal it. A quality of the soul doesn't mean that it's being functionally used. It can be there and dormant. How do you bring it out? So here it said by if you contemplate, the more you will think about the loftiness of the essence of God and how your soul is a part of that, right? And yet it came down into a body, right, that is so, the light is so retracted that it is, we call it a serpent skin, right? That's how distant it is, how dark and gloomy it is, meaning dark and gloomy because the agenda of the body is just self-serving. The body naturally does not reveal godliness. It reveals selfhood, right? Body is, bodybuilders are into themselves, right? They're not into being good to others, not from the bodybuilding part, right? From the soul part, they'll be good to others. But from body is all self-directed, right? When you're hungry, it's your body feels hunger. If you feel your own hunger, you feeling hungry, you will never feed another person, right? Because your body feels hunger. When you translate that to your soul, right? That in your soul you feel a lack, then you can feel a lack of someone else's soul and feed them, right? But from the point of view of the body, you'll never feed another person because your body can only feel yourself. Your body can't feel another, right? Your soul could, because with your soul you're connected. So when you appreciate the two things, the reality of your soul being a part of God, God that is the essence of God that doesn't change, right? And that's where the soul comes from. And it came down into this world from above into an environment called the serpent skin of the body, and a world that drives you to the body to go after the lusts of the body naturally. And you think about that, you'll have great compassion. The more you think about that, the more you think, oh my gosh, I have a piece of God in me, and I'm driven by these passions. I'm going to have compassion over my soul, right? The more you think about that. Now, what will lead you to think that way? Again, you've got to be attuned to your soul. If you're attuned to your body, then you're just going to be self-serving. And, the contemplation, you're not going to contemplate it. You're not going to think it. It's not going to matter to you because you're attuned only to your bodily needs, right? Elie Wiesel tells a story when he was in the camps. I think it's Elie Wiesel. I might be mistaken. Doesn't matter. It's a story in the camps. No, it wasn't Elie Wiesel. Sorry, it wasn't Elie Wiesel. It was a great rabbi. No, it wasn't Elie Wiesel. Yeah, it was a great rabbi. So wasn't bad enough what the Nazis did. Yimach Shema made their names be obliterated together with Yeshu. But that wasn't enough. But what they did is actually take away any form of humanness out of the person and any compassion. So, without going into the details, I don't remember precisely the details at this moment. Sold a rabbi who kind of took under his wings two boys that were twins. I think they were 14, maybe something like that, too young. And they were close brothers, not just because they were twins, but they were close. And his one brother got sick and was um, typhus or whatever, and he passed away. And so the rabbi was very like broken and thinking, how's he going to tell his brother they're so close and this and that? And he tells him, and he responds to him, "Oh, I want his shoes. Did he leave the rations of the day? Does he have them? I want his rations." And he thought to himself, "Oh my gosh, look, what a what a pity! Such close brothers, and he has no compassion for his brother that he died." And he had compassion for him that he couldn't have compassion because look what the Nazis did. That they were, a skeleton of a person, and all he could think of is his own survival. All he could think of is, a morsel of bread that his brother might have had left in his pocket, maybe, that he didn't eat that day. And he'd get his shoes because he had bad shoes and he had better shoes. Oh, that's all he could think of. Didn't even think the fact that his brother died. Now, the rabbi wasn't saying that to blame him. If anything, he was blaming the Nazis. They're the ones who are responsible for that, not him. The fact that he was acting like an animal, right? Well, that's exactly what they've tried to reduce the people to. The point I'm bringing out is over here is how you can lose compassion, right? Totally. Um, is it there? Yeah. The rabbi had compassion. Okay, he's a rabbi. He's more attuned to his soul. He was in survival mode, this 14-year-old brother, and seeing death all around him. The fact that another died, like, you see more death than you see life. So, like, next. That's how, desensitized you become. But do we have it? Absolutely. It's inherent in the soul. We just have to be attuned to the soul. We have to be attuned to the soul. Yeah? Is that clear?
I have empathy.
Yeah. Why is it all of a sudden the entity gets in our head to derail our thoughts when that has never happened before? All of a sudden, this entity gets into our head. Which entity do you mean? I'm not clear what that means. If you can explain that. So Kay says, I understand compassion, but sometimes you can have too much compassion. Thank you, Kay, for saying that. So yeah, there's a point that you're saying that is absolutely correct. For example, a person might say, and one of the things that I do is run a drug crisis center, Chabad Lifeline, dealing with addiction. So when a person would say, well, I'm going to have compassion on the drug addict, and here's $100. That's not called compassion. That's cruelty, actually, because what you've done is given them $100 worth of drugs, because that's what they're going to use it for. Now, if you gave them a sandwich, or you paid for their rent, right, or you did something of that manner, in that manner that will be helpful for them, then that would be compassionate. But to give them money and that they're going to use the money as they please, you're just bringing their death sentence a day earlier. And that's not compassion. 100%. Compassion is an attribute, a quality that we have, but it's a quality. It's not the only quality. So you don't have compassion at all times. At times, as a matter of fact, the Talmud says, yeah, there are times that you don't use the compassion. Sometimes you need to be very stern, right? You have to use gvura, exactly. You have to use gvura, the power of discernment, of being strong and firm and saying no, right? Sometimes that's necessary. Like when the drug addict is asking you for money. No, firmly, right? But here's a sandwich.
Yeah, exactly. They'll throw it back at you. Right. And those to whom the compassion should be extended, for obvious reasons, let's look at the situation with the hostages.
Right. Don't have compassion over Hamas. Exactly. Right.
Yes.
That would be a misplaced. That's like the drug addict. Like have compassion over the drug addict to give them $100. No. So have compassion over Hamas and let them have the food. Let them steal the food, and so on. No. Livsha, is giving tzedakah without compassion just as one's ego? How's that seen by the Tanya? We'll learn more about that. Being charitable without compassion is lacking, but if the poor person needs the food or the money to buy food, and you didn't do it compassionately, at least they can have some food to eat, right? So that's important, even if it wasn't done fully, but it should be done fully with compassion. Hey, if you have too much compassion, you can let others feel comfortable being connected to the HR around you, and it sucks and it drives you. You can't function. Yeah, well, we mentioned that. That's a good point. But if you let people suck out the vitality from you, that's your problem, not theirs. That's your problem. That's not them. You're allowing them. You're allowing them to have that effect on you. They don't have to have that effect on you. That's up to you. That's up to you. They run you dry. Well, because you let them. And I don't mean even value creating boundaries. I mean the emotional that you allow them emotionally to drain you, that you don't have to. You don't have to allow that. But excellent. Thank you for sharing that. All right. Amazing. All right, folks. Rambam is coming up. Thank you very much. God bless. Beautiful. Beautiful.
Steam shirt again.